What's up everyone, my name is Marie, welcome to my channel and welcome to another speed build. So for today's video I am back in the world of Newcrest and I am building a fairly large family home. I think it's a colonial style home, I'm not really sure. I'm just calling it a very fancy family home because that's basically what I was going for. And for this one I did find a reference photo on Pinterest that I really liked. I like the shape of the house. It's not too complicated and I like that it only has like all hipped roofs everywhere and I really like the look of that. It makes it look very fancy and luxurious in my opinion. And it has a wrap around roof pretty much all around the house. You can see me placing that right now. And I really like the look of that. I thought it was very fancy as I mentioned and so yeah, that's what I ended up building. And what I really liked about the reference picture that I found is that the house was all fenced in. The house was placed, you can see that I placed it that way too, like on the back of the lot. So there is not really any space for a backyard, but there is space for a front yard and a side yard, if that makes any sense. There's a lot of room left, but there is no backyard because the house is placed on the back of the lot and then the whole lot was fenced in. And I thought that looked so fancy and so luxurious. And there was, in front of the house, there was a carport with like two very large and amazing cars parked under it. And yeah, I found that picture and I thought it looked so fancy and cool, and I never really build anything that is completely fenced in, so I wanted to give it a try. But what I ended up doing is I deleted the fence. I don't know, I was playing around with it. You'll see me play around with that in a little while. But the fencing, it didn't look right. I think the lot was a little bit too small, so I could have moved the house over to a bigger lot. But I didn't really want to do that because I thought the size of the house for this lot was perfect. And yeah, I just didn't really feel like moving the whole thing to a bigger lot. So I was playing around with fencing the whole thing in and placing down a carport and everything. And then in the end, I decided to just stop and not do that at all. And I also ended up rotating the house to face the other side of the road, if that makes any sense. I wanted it to face this way in the beginning because there is another colonial home that I built across the street, and I really like the look of these two homes facing towards each other. But then when I didn't end up going with the fence and everything, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna rotate the lot or the house on the lot to face the other side of the road. And the game also sees that side of the lot as the front. Like when you load into this lot, that is what the game loads you into as being the front of the house, if that makes sense. So I was thinking, you know what, for the playability, if that makes sense, for this house, I just rotated it and I got rid of the fence altogether. But before you see me playing around with that, I was also playing around with the windows for a long time. I didn't quite know if I wanted to go for more modern looking windows or more traditional looking windows, and I did end up going with the Seasons windows, so a little bit more traditional, but still modern looking in a way. They're very fancy looking, and I was playing around with the coloring of the colors of the windows for a long time as well. And I ended up going for the white ones, so they're dark brown right now, but I ended up going with the white ones. I don't know, I made the whole house pretty light. It's very cream colored, cream and white mixed together, and the white windows it suited the house a little bit better. So I will end up changing those in a little while. I also was very excited to be able to place those larger windows. I think they're from either Laundry Day or Seasons, but I'm not quite sure. I think they're from Laundry Day, but I'm not sure. Those larger windows that you can see right now as kind of a sunroom area. It's not really a sunroom because it's not those windows all around. It is placed in the kitchen. But I was really excited that I had the chance to use those windows because they're my absolute favorite windows in the game, but they don't always suit every house, and they only go on the medium wall height, so which I use for this house for the downstairs area, or the first floor is on the medium wall height. So I did have the opportunity to use those windows, and I was very happy about it. And I also I just really like the colors of this house in general. It's very light and creamy, and it's that way on the inside as well, which was a lot of fun. I really went for crisp white walls and light wood floors and a couple of feature walls on the inside that have the same brick that is on the first floor on the outside. I really liked to just have that come back on the inside of the house as well. It just makes it very, well, like I mentioned, very fancy and very luxurious. But here you can see me playing around with the fences, and I built the carport, and I thought it was very fancy and I liked it a lot. But the whole fence around the whole house, I don't know, it just didn't really make any sense, and it made it look too busy, in my opinion. I don't know, I just really didn't like the look of it, so I decided to get rid of it altogether, and in a little while I'll also delete the carport, because I did like the idea of having cars for this house, but as you can see, there is not really any way you could drive those cars off of the lot, if that makes sense, because there is, on the sidewalk there's tiny little fences all around the house. So there is only one spot, like when I had the house face the other way, you can see that there isn't one opening there, which is the reason why, also one of the reasons why I started building the house facing the other way in the beginning, because that was the only way that you could have a car drive off the lot. But then I decided to get rid of the carport altogether, and I didn't really want to place any cars down anymore. So I was like, you know what? I might as well just rotate the whole house so that it makes sense in the game. So when you load into the house, you'll be facing the front door instead of the side of the house. And it worked out way better. So I don't know. I found a reference photo that I really liked, but I still ended up making it completely my own. The color scheme on that reference photo was also quite different. The shape of the house is pretty similar. It has the same like bump outs and everything, and the same roofing. But yeah, I don't know. I was really happy that I found that photo because it was really inspiring for me to build this house. I really like the look of it, but I still ended up making it completely my own, and I always like it when that happens. Like whenever I'm building using a reference photo, at some point I just wanna close the reference photo and let my own imagination take over in a way, and that's totally what happened for this build as well. So that was really nice. I was really enjoying building this house. It took me a long time because it is quite a large house, and I was fiddling around with a lot of different things. But as soon as I moved on to the inside, everything went fairly quickly, except for the kitchen. The kitchen took me forever. I didn't know which style I wanted to go with, if I wanted to build a very modern kitchen or more traditional or somewhere in between. But I ended up going, on the inside, I ended up using a few different interior styles mixed together. There is definitely some hints of mid-century modern in there, especially in the living room. I used very mid-century modern looking furniture in there, but mixed together with very classic pieces, very traditional looking pieces, as well as very modern looking pieces. So the whole interior is kind of a mixture between mid-century modern, contemporary, and traditional. So that's a lot of different styles mixed together, but I did like the way that it turned out. I did think that the pieces that I use on the inside really go together very well. And I was having a lot of fun with the interior as well as the exterior of the house. I loved landscaping this build. I wanted it to look fairly neatly landscaped, if that makes sense. Like I wanted it to be very neat, but still a little bit overgrown and friendly looking. I did want to use a lot of plants and trees and stuff everywhere. And I used a little fountain and stuff, and I just think that it looks very cute. And here you can see me fiddling around with the floor plan for a little while. I really like the way that the floor plan turned out. I will be making some changes to the floor plan as I'm furnishing, but you'll see that later on. But the floor plan, it's quite a big house, and the part that I am most proud of for this house is the landing area with the balcony. I don't know, I think it looks beautiful. I finally had a chance to create like the 2-story hallway downstairs, if that makes any sense, with a balcony over it. So I was really happy with the way that the landing area and the hallway turned out. I don't know, it's the part of the house that I'm most proud of, and I placed a huge hanging lamp from the second area. You'll see me place that down in a little while. I hope I'm making some sense here, but you can see me do that right now. I placed, not this one, but the other one. Yeah, that one, the square one. And I think it just looks so luxurious. Like when you just imagine walking into that front door, entering a hallway that is like very high up, like it has very high ceilings, and there's that huge lamp hanging, and you can just look up and see the balcony right there. And I don't know, I think it looks very fancy, and it's definitely not something I do a lot because usually I build smaller homes and I just don't really have any room basically to just make a loft space like that. But for this one, I did have the chance to do that, and I am very happy with the way that it turned out. And I decided to just not think too much about the colors inside because basically I just didn't want it to be too colorful. I wanted it to be very warm still and very welcoming and friendly looking, but I did want it to be very white and light and crisp on the inside. So I used a lot of whites and grays and also cream color, if that makes sense. So yeah, I was definitely very happy with the way that the color scheme on the inside turned out. And here you can see me decorating the formal dining area. There's also a tiny, or not a tiny, but a smaller dining table in the living room of the house, but that is more like a table that you can just hang out and sit around and play games or do your homework or something. And this one is the actual formal dining table in the formal dining area leading into the kitchen as well. And yeah, here you will see in a little while that I placed a few items that are definitely a little bit more mid-century modern looking. And I didn't want this house to be too cluttered either. That's something that whenever I decide to make my homes not too cluttered, that is fairly difficult because I love placing down clutter and making my builds, just giving the builds personality like that, like giving every room some kind of story and some kind of personality. I love creating that by using a lot of clutter. But in this house, what I told myself is, okay, I can use clutter, obviously, because I want the house to look lived in, but I want all the clutter items to be intentional. So for example, that little plant and the salt and pepper shakers on the table, those items are purely intentional. Like if you were to tidy up that room, clean up the room, you would leave those pieces there because that's where they belong, if that makes sense. And I wanted it to be that way for the whole house. So sometimes I really had to tell myself, to stop cluttering, especially in the bedrooms. The bedrooms are a little bit more cluttered, but I guess that's okay because those would be the rooms with the most personality. At least that's how I am imagining it. But yeah, for the rest of the build, you'll see me not placing down too much clutter. It's fairly spacious in a way, but still looks very lived in and not too bare, if that makes sense. And here you can see me fiddling around with the kitchen. Oh my gosh, this was a struggle and a half because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm changing up the flooring in here as well in a little while because the space is just so big and I don't always like using tiles in areas that are this big. I don't know, I didn't like the look of the gray tiles. It was just too much gray for me, so I'll be changing that out in a little while. But I did end up going with these countertops from Jungle Adventure. They're definitely my favorite countertops in the game, I think, because I love the swatches of them. They're so beautiful. And for this house, I thought it was perfect because it's a little bit more rustic looking, but still very modern and renovated, if that makes sense. And I love the cream color of them, like the cream and the white combined together. I don't know, I love the color swatch in combination with that wall that I mentioned earlier. That's the same stone or the same brick. Is it brick or stone? I don't know. But the same wallpaper that I'm using on the outside of the house, and I placed that for a backsplash in the kitchen and for a feature wall in the dining room as well. did I place it in the living room? I don't know. I don't think so. But I ended up going with that matching tile on the floor. I think the tile on the wall on the floor, I think that is from Vampires, if I'm not mistaken. From the Vampires game pack. And I love the cream swatch. I don't think I've ever used that floor tile inside in a kitchen or anywhere else. But for this house, I thought it was perfect. It made so much sense to me because it looks like the very expensive and luxurious like nature stone kind of thing. And I was imagining that putting that floor on the inside of a home would be very expensive. And that's definitely the look and feel that I wanted to go for in this house and in this kitchen. And I don't know, I've mentioned it 1,000 times, but I love the colors in this kitchen, the cream and the white combined with a lighter wood tone on the floor. And I don't know, I love it. And I also placed those shelving units inside the windows. They went in there perfectly. I placed one down in there by accident when I was pulling them out of the catalog, but I placed it in there by accident and I was like, wait, what? This looks perfect, because usually when you place items inside the window, the game thinks they're outside, so the lighting on those items is a little bit different. But I'm always playing with the Move Objects cheat activated, and I accidentally placed one of those shelving units inside the window, and that basically got rid of the little legs that are underneath that unit. So it looks like it's just placed on the floor, if that makes sense. But I placed it in that window and it looks perfectly fine. I love it. It looks completely intentional, and I've never done that before. But I'm sure that I'll use that trick a little bit more often now that I know that I can place them there inside that window perfectly. And so I decided to place two of those. So basically one of those shelving units inside each window, and it looks totally intentional and like it was a built-in shelving unit, if that makes sense. I don't know, I love the look and feel of it. And I just added a little bit of a coffee bar area around the corner. That was an awkward space that I had left in the kitchen, basically, that I didn't really know what to do with. And I ended up just placing a few more counters there to make it into like a separate little coffee bar area, if that makes sense. And I love it. I love that this kitchen has different corners and nooks to it, if that makes sense. And I just placed a tiny little couch there if you just want to sit down and drink your coffee and look out the window or something like that. Just a tiny little spot to sit down and relax. And then I will swap out that hutch right there, that china cabinet, for the one that came with Discover University. That one is a little bit more traditional looking. You can see me do that right there. I love the contrast between the modern items in the kitchen and the more traditional rustic looking items. I don't know, that combination of items worked out just fine for this kitchen. And inside the kitchen, there is a doorway to the closed off laundry space, which was very fitting for this house. At least that's what it felt like to me. So I just gave them that closed off little laundry space that you can enter from the kitchen. It was a perfect little spot, and I cluttered this one up a little bit more because, I don't know, that's just realistic for a laundry space in my opinion. Laundry spaces have basically stuff everywhere, and that's how it's supposed to be. And I was planning on placing a bathroom right there, but you can see me moving that around to the other side of the room because I did want there to be a blank wall for a large TV and a fireplace. That's one thing that I wanted to place down in the living room from the get-go. So I fiddled around with which fireplace I wanted to use. I didn't record all of that because it took me a long time. In the beginning, I wanted to go for a more modern looking one, but then I was like, no, you know what? This house is probably fairly old. I mean, regardless, it probably has been renovated. So it looks very modern right now, but there should be some like traditional pieces to it that have been there ever since the house was built. And I thought the fireplace would be one of those things. Like The fireplace also probably has been renovated and painted and stuff like that. But still, it's the traditional, like the original fireplace that was inside this house when it was first built. That's what I was imagining. So I did want that piece to be a little bit more traditional and old and classic looking, if that makes sense. I think that's a fireplace from Vampires as well. I don't think I have ever used this many items from Vampires in a build, really. Because whenever I think about these items, they're always, like, the default swatch in the catalog is always a very dark and mysterious looking swatch for the items. But of course, all those items also come in lighter swatches and like creamy colors and whites and stuff. And I tend to just not think about that because they're items from Vampires. So I'm always like, I don't really like using those items. So I just skip over them. But for this build, I didn't. And I was really happy with the fireplace that I found and the flooring in the kitchen and everything that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, I was really happy with the way that this living area turned out. I used a lot of whites in here as well, combined with the grays. And you can see that there's definitely a few more hints of mid-century modern style in here as well, because of those couches that I used. I think those are from Get Famous, and then the chairs from Tiny Living, which are definitely also a little bit more mid-century looking. And then here I am placing down that table. I love that I got to use that lamp from Vintage. What's that stuff back called? Vintage Glamour, I think. But I have never used that lamp before, ever, I don't think. That goes for a lot of items in this house because I don't really tend to use, like I mentioned, items from Vampires or Vintage Glamour. But in the master bedroom, I used a lot of items from Vintage Glamour, and it looks great. It looks amazing in there. And I don't know, I was really happy that I found those items useful in this build. Items that I normally don't really use really came in handy for this build. So that was something that was really fun. And then here I'm just placing down a few bookcases together so that it looks like it's one big bookcase. And another thing that I was very happy with for this build is that I had a space to place down the grand piano. I don't think I have ever placed down the grand piano in any of my builds because, like I said earlier, I tend to build more smaller homes, and then whenever I do build a bigger home, I don't know, I just never really end up having space for the grand piano. And for this house I did, and I thought it was perfect. It was the perfect item, and it also gave me an idea for the storyline for the family of this house, because I was kind of just thinking about that storyline as I was furnishing the build. Like when I started building it, I didn't really have any sort of backstory in mind. But when I started furnishing it, I did think of one thanks to that grand piano, basically. So what I was thinking was there is a family living here, a family that consists of 4 Sims. I didn't really think of any genders. But what I was thinking, this family is quite rich. Like, they're very rich, but also probably fairly like well known in the neighborhood or in the area. And I was thinking that maybe one of the parents could run a very successful law firm. I did furnish an office area upstairs. I'm placing down this little office nook right here as well, but I was thinking that is more of like a homework area, or just if you need to do something on the computer quickly, you can just sit down there and do it there. But I did furnish a very large and very official looking office space upstairs, and I was thinking that could be the office space for one of the parents who runs a very successful law firm. So that basically makes them a lot of money, and which is one of the reasons why the family is so wealthy and well off, is because one of the parents runs a law firm, is what I was thinking. And then the other parent, they could be a pianist. I mean, why not? They could be a musician. I thought that was a very cool idea. So one of the parents is a lawyer, and then the other parent is a professional musician and a classical musician. I don't know how to say that. But basically just a pianist, and they give concerts and stuff like that. And they are pretty well known. Yeah, they're just a pretty well-known musician. So both parents have jobs that pay very well and also gives them a little bit of fame in a way. Not that they're world famous celebrities or something, but they basically are known in the area or known in the country for the work that they do. I thought that would be a cool idea. And which is also why they're so well off, and they can afford this large house, and they could afford to renovate it. And I was thinking that they have 2 kids that are already a little bit older. So I was thinking, when you're speaking in Sims terms, I was thinking that the kids are young adults, and they are both going to university. I was thinking a daughter and a son, maybe. And I was thinking that the son, he is the oldest of the 2, and maybe he is in his last year of university. And then the daughter, the little sister, she just started university not too long ago. She's probably in her first year, and the kids still live at home. But I'll talk about that a little bit later when I move on to their bedrooms. Here I am furnishing the master bedroom. I'm really happy with the way this came out. I really love what I did with the bed, and I placed 2 couches behind there, basically. I totally talked over it, but I just wanted to create a custom headboard. So what I did was I placed 2 of those couches, the couches that are very like high up in the back. I placed them towards the wall, and then I placed the bed against it so that it kind of looks like that's a headboard. And then there was 2 pieces of the couch sticking out still on the side of the bed, but I thought that looked perfect for nightstands. So, and then I placed 2 glass tables over it so that it looks a little bit more like actual side tables that you can put stuff on. I don't know if anyone else likes what I did with the bed there, but I was really happy with the way that came out. It definitely took me a lot of fiddling around, and I didn't record all of that. But I don't know, I was really happy with the way that the bed came out. And here you can see me placing down that vanity and that dresser and everything. A lot of those items are from Vintage Glamour, as I mentioned earlier. And I love that color swatch of the items that I used. I used all matching swatches from those items, and I think it looks so good. I don't know, I love that color mixed with the cream and the white and just the beigey, creamy colors in this bedroom. And I tried to not clutter it up too much, but you can definitely see that there is some clutter like on the nightstands and on the vanity and stuff. And that gives it just a little bit of personality. But not too much clutter, like I mentioned. It's all basically all very intentional stuff that's just laying around there. Here I stopped. I don't know why I stopped for a little while. I think I just forgot to press pause on my recording software. So I was taking a little break or something and fiddling around with the house a bit more, but I forgot to press pause. So that was a bit of a messy part right there. I'm sorry, but you could see me furnishing the ensuite bathroom for the master bedroom right there. And then there is another bathroom upstairs, a hall bathroom that is basically in between the kids' bedrooms. So that is the bedroom or the bathroom for the other 2 bedrooms. I didn't record that one because I basically used the exact same furniture and color swatches in there, almost in the exact same layout as well, a little bit different, but pretty much the same. And the only difference is that that bathroom has one of those corner tubs instead of a regular tub. But for the rest, that bathroom is the same, and I didn't want it to become too repetitive, so I just decided to not record that bathroom. I hope that's okay. But it's basically the same. And like I mentioned, this is the office that I was talking about earlier. It does have that awkward little corner here that I didn't really know what to do with, but I just decided to place a few of those shelves. I think those shelves are from Cats and Dogs, if I'm not mistaken. And they're fairly large shelves. So I was like, I can just place those against the wall and make it look like a little filing cabinet, if that makes sense. But instead of a cabinet, it's shelves. And I think it works out perfectly fine because there is a lot of boxes with like paperwork and stuff I was imagining. And that needs to be accessible, but the the parent that uses this office doesn't really like clutter, as I mentioned before, so they just kind of put it away in a corner so that it's still very accessible and easy to reach, but not like too visible, if that makes sense. But here you can see that the office does look quite fancy, and it's not too cluttered either, like the rest of the house. And I was thinking that sometimes maybe they have clients come over to their house instead of to the office if they just want it to be a little bit less formal, or if they have a lot of stuff to talk over that's maybe a little bit difficult, and they just want their client to be comfortable, feel welcome and stuff. Maybe sometimes they like invite their clients over to their house instead of the office. So that is a little bit more homey and welcomey feeling, if that makes sense. I thought that was a cute idea. And basically, of course, the parent who is the lawyer also needs to do a lot of work from home, probably. So they have this very fancy office with a lot of bookcases and just a lot of items in here. I was really enjoying cluttering up that bookcase because I did want it to look very neat, but still there needed to be some stuff in there. So yeah, I was really happy with the way that it ended up looking, and I just placed a couple of plants in here as well for just a little bit of greenery everywhere. But here I moved on to the first bedroom of the two kids. And I was thinking that this bedroom was for the older brother who is in his last year of university. I went for a little bit of a darker theme in here. You can't see that quite yet right now, but I will be changing up the color swatches in this room to a little bit of darker color swatches in a little while. But as I mentioned, I was thinking that he is in his last year of university, basically, and he probably moved back home because he wants to focus on graduating and just finishing all his classes. And I was thinking that he is probably studying something fairly difficult. I don't know what exactly. I didn't really think about that. But maybe something like robotics or something, because I did give him this little study area with a big TV hanging over it as well, and a gaming console and stuff. So maybe he is very into gaming and designing games or something like that. I think that is something that he would be into, and maybe that's what he is studying for. But I was thinking that he did live in the dorms for a few years, or he did live with roommates. I don't know if it was in dorms, but definitely in student housing. I think he did experience that, and he had a lot of fun, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. But he did decide to move back home for his last year because he wants to really focus on graduating, really focus on getting good grades, because maybe, I don't know, maybe he like got a job offer somewhere that if he graduates with the highest results or the highest grades, he could get this really well paid or this really good job that he has always wanted, something like that. But I was thinking that something happened that made him really motivated to get the best grades possible and get away from all the distractions of living in the dorms and just moving back home with his parents, because the house is very spacious and he has a very large bedroom and not a lot of roommates, and basically the perfect area to just really focus on school and focus on getting good grades and graduating with the best grades possible. So that's what I was thinking for him. And then this is the bedroom for the younger sister. Her bedroom is a little bit smaller, but I don't know. I think that's okay. It's still very large and spacious. And I did go for a little bit more of a mid-century modern theme in here again, but for this bedroom, I really went all out with the mid-century modern. I was really having a lot of fun with the lighter wood tones, and I'll be definitely adding a few pops of color in a little while. But for the sister, I was thinking that she is probably in her first year of college. Once again, I don't really know what she would be studying. Maybe something creative. Maybe she wants to become a musician as well, or something else that is a little bit more on the creative side of things. So she graduated high school not too long ago, and then she started college right after, or she started university right after she graduated. And she just doesn't really want to move out of her parents' house just yet. I mean, she has a very luxurious and very nice house here, and she has a very nice bedroom as well, and she just doesn't really feel like moving out of the house just yet and moving into student housing. She will, maybe, probably one day. But for now, she just really kind of wants to find her way around university and make new friends and stuff like that. She probably has a lot of friends living close to where she lives right now, so she just didn't really want to leave that behind just yet. And she just wants to stay in her parents' house for a little while longer, and then once she kind of finds her way around university a little bit better and she makes a few new friends and maybe joins some after-school activities or something like that, then maybe she will move out to university housing or to dorms a little bit later, just not right now. But this room is definitely a little bit more cluttered. I mean, it's a younger person's bedroom, basically, and she just has a lot of stuff laying around. And it's just, I wanted to give it a little bit more personality and a little bit more realism to the bedroom, if that makes sense. And I was really having fun with the colors in here as well. There's definitely lots of pops of blue in there and everything. So yeah, that's kind of the storyline that I had in mind for the family that lives here. I hope you enjoyed that little rambling session about the family. But I moved on to furnishing the landing area. I am so proud of this area. I don't know. I usually really don't like decorating landing areas or hallway spaces in general because I never really know what to put there. But here I just added a little workout space because that just fit perfectly in there. And it's really light and there's not too much clutter in here either. And I don't know, I just really love the look and feel of that balcony that you can look down into the hallway with that very large lamp hanging from the ceiling. It's exactly what I wanted for this house, and I am so happy that it turned out that way. I don't know, I'm so proud of this landing space. It's not really anything very special, but still it looks very realistic and there's not too much stuff there. There's a couple of dressers and, like I mentioned, a small workout space, but that's about it. And then here's a tiny little balcony that I added the meditation stool to. I thought that was the perfect spot. I was thinking about adding a chess table out there at first, but then I was like, no, this is the perfect tiny little balcony area for meditating. It would just be perfect to just wake up in the morning, and if you feel like doing a little bit of meditating because you're stressed out or something, that is just the perfect spot to do that. No one is coming out there to disturb you. That would just be the perfect spot. But here you can see I moved on to the rest of the backyard of the house. I added a pool in there. It's not too big, but still a pool because I definitely felt like this family would have a pool. So I just went ahead and added a pool in the backyard. And I also finally had the chance to use a hot tub because I tend to forget that they exist in the game. And then whenever I realize that there's hot tubs and that I am building something that I would use the hot tub for, I never really have space left to place one. They just look too chunky and too big and it just looks weird. But for this house, I did have space and it looks all right. So I was really happy about that. This family definitely really does have all the luxurious items that you would expect to find in a house like this, in my opinion at least. So yeah, I was really happy that I did have the space to just add everything that I wanted. And there's lots of flowers in here in the backyard, but still all very intentional. They definitely have someone come over every once in a while to just take care of the plants and take care of the hedges and everything. And I just added a little yoga mat down there by the pool. I just thought that looked really cute. It was just the perfect spot to just do some yoga in the morning or in the evening or afternoon, really doesn't matter. But it's just a perfect little spot right there. And I did give them a couple of apple trees that they probably don't really take care of themselves. Maybe they do. Maybe one of the parents is really into gardening as well, just for a little bit of relaxing. Maybe that's a fun idea as well. But here you can see that I did place down the hot tub that came with the Sims 4 20th anniversary, 20th birthday, I don't know, that update that we got the free hot tub from. I finally had the chance to use it, and I was really happy that I found a spot for it to use it. But we are basically coming to the end of this speed build, so I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed building and furnishing this house. You can download it off the gallery. My username on the gallery is Simmarysims. There is no CC in here. That I never use any CC, so I don't know why I'm mentioning that now. But yeah, you should be able to find it and download it quite easily. I'm also going to add a download link in the description box down below if you find it easier to download it directly from the gallery website. But you can also follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @Simmarysims. And you can also follow me on Twitter if you want to. My Twitter username is Simmarysims as well. I just started posting there a little bit more recently because I never really use Twitter. But I started using it because I think it's a really fun platform and I'm starting to get the hang of it now. So yeah, I enjoy using Twitter these days, or really only lurking right now, but I am definitely trying to post a little bit more on Twitter as well. But we are heading on into the screenshots, as you can see. So I hope you enjoyed this build, and I want to just say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next build. Bye!